Mujevale, Mujevale, Mujevale. My name is Bani Kibuka, and this is the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Welcome once again to this episode. I'm so excited to bring you yet another story that's interesting. One of my good friends from Alabama, Ashton, connected me to a friend who was a pretty interesting story that I want all of you to listen to. And today's guest is none other than Unique. That's how I call her. But Unique, welcome to this show. And can you begin by telling us your name?
Yes, my name is Unique Dunston.
Yeah. So I know I was talking to you before we started recording a little bit about myself and everything. And it's pretty interesting that you have the name called Unique. I wish my parents named me Unique because that would make me unique than anybody else. Are you proud of that name?
Yes, I am proud of my name. And people used to ask me if I felt pressure to live up to the name. And
Mm-hmm.
it's weird because I don't. And it's like somehow my mom knew that I would just be different. And so like it's just natural for me to do things differently, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty good because even like reading through your story that we're going to share today, it makes you a unique person because I've not had a lot of people who do what you do. Now, before we go into your story, can you just tell us where you're from?
Yes, so I'm from Albertville, Alabama. It's about a population of 25,000 now. Obviously, it was a little less than that growing up, but I now live in Mobile. We moved to Mobile, Alabama in 2015 for college and new career. So that is where my husband and I are located now.
Nice. Actually, I lived in Alabama for a year. I don't know if I've told, I don't think I did, but I lived in Birmingham, Alabama, straight from Uganda. I came here to study how to fly airplanes, but it didn't work out that way. And I ended up at college in Birmingham, Alabama in 2014. So from summer of 2014 to summer of 2015, I was in Birmingham, Alabama. And that's how I got to know the person that connected me to you. But I really love Alabama and miss all my friends down there. Now, where did you go to high school?
I went to Albertville High School. It's in our county of probably like 100,000 people. Albertville is the biggest city. So Albertville is known for like just being bigger than the other cities, even though we're super small compared to other counties and cities.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, I'm focusing on your school stuff and see because when I was reading your story online, it mostly begins with your education and dives into what you're doing right now. In your time during school, what was your favorite subject? I know when I was in school, I liked math. I don't like math right now because I forgot most of the stuff. But when I was in school, I liked math. What was your favorite subject in school?
Probably English. Um, I enjoyed writing. I don't do it nearly as much as I used to, but I don't know. I feel like writing is like it can be an escape for me at
Hmm.
times just to let everything out and write down my thoughts and my feelings and then to go back to read it later when you're in a completely different headspace. It feels good.
That's really nice. Actually, even today, I write when something a thought comes in my head, I just write it down and just write in my notes. And yeah, when you read it at some time, it just feels good when you write this down. Now, when I talked in my first episode when I told my high school story. My high school was different because I went to a different country. But what did you enjoy the most in your high school?
Well, I was very involved in high school. So almost every sport, show choir is very big in Albertville. I was in show choir. I did band, um, cheerleading, basketball, softball, everything almost.
Yeah, you probably didn't see it because you're not seeing my face, but when you mentioned show choir, I got a big smile on my face because I have two of my friends in Birmingham, Alabama right now. They were adopted from Uganda and they went to Hoover. I think that's how you pronounce it, Hoover High School in
Yeah.
Birmingham, Alabama. And they're in show choir. So I used to go to their show choir, and that was always my favorite time to just see them sing and smile. And when you mentioned show choir, I got a big smile on my face because it made me remember the moment.
Oh, that makes me
Now,
so happy. Usually when I say show choir, they're like, they just think like a regular choir singing. I'm like, no, it's different.
yeah, people in Michigan they don't have that. So I've been asking when I moved up here, I asked people, "Hey, do your high schools have like show choir and stuff?" They've never heard of that, and yeah, I know what you're saying. Now, when I was reading your story, um, I read that you were one of only the two black students in your graduating class. How was that like for you to be only two people,
At,
two black people students?
at first, in elementary school, it was pretty tough. I got bullied a lot because, I mean, there were a specific group of students that would go around telling our whole class, don't play with Unique because her skin is too dark and her hair is different. And so we need to separate ourselves from her because she's different and she looks different than everybody else here. And at first, I did not understand that because my mom poured so much love into us and taught us to, love everybody equally and just raised us right and that, just spread love and be kind um, at every chance that you get. So I was going through this at school for over and over again. And I didn't tell anybody until I decided that I couldn't take it anymore. And so this is first grade. I'm being called the N word. I am continuously being bullied by these students. Nobody's playing with me. And so I finally get the courage to tell my teacher. And I went up to her and she told me to stop tattletelling and to get to the back of the line. And I was like, oh my God, I built up all of this courage for nothing. And so I was like, okay. So I got to the back of the line, and in my mind, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to have to tell my mama, and y'all are not going to like that. So I went home and told her. And she came up there the next day. We had meetings with the principal and the teacher and everything. And so from there, it didn't stop there, but I guess for that the rest of first grade, it was pretty smooth sailing because those those students knew that my mom was serious and that she wasn't playing.
Yeah. Now, so how about the teachers? Like, I know you've mentioned about how the students would do that and bully you, but like, were the teachers in your school supportive, or they were not doing anything about it?
Um, so after that incident, I mean, things just kind of moved on, but the teachers are, I mean, I now know that they are very conservative in their political views. Oh, I mean, and which also means they are not aware of Black culture, of really Black anything. I mean, I told you I was one of the two Black people in my graduating class. So the exposure to Black culture just wasn't there. And so what happened was I kind of just naturally assimilated into the way that they did things, um, the beliefs that they had until about probably high school. And
Hmm.
this was probably 10th grade. And Trayvon Martin was just murdered in Florida by George Zimmerman. And I remember being at home and watching this on the news and watching the different protests and, everything being rolled out. And I was like, wow, this is so real and unlike anything that I have ever experienced. And I really just had a moment with myself and with my family to talk about these things because at school, with my friend group, they did not mention anything about Trayvon Martin. Like, we didn't talk about it at all.
Hmm.
But that was probably the first time I remember seeing police brutality and injustices happening to the Black community. Like, that really opened my eyes, even though that, police brutality and injustices against Black people is as old as America is. I didn't even see that.
I wouldn't say I have a lot of knowledge about what the history of this country is, but living in America for it'll be 6 years for me. I'm from Uganda, and somebody to hate you because of your skin color. Like before I speak, somebody won't know where I come from because they'll tell the accent. And I've gone through things like that myself, where somebody will hate you before even they know who you are, like where they come from, but because you're just that color, it just counts for their hate. And when you start speaking and then they ask you, oh, where are you from? And then you tell them I'm from Uganda, and they will start showing like they're feeling sorry. But before just looking at your skin color, and somebody will just hate. And like you say, we just need to spread love, and that's what we need to preach. And that's what I think people are trying to show on, like when they protest, they show like people's lives matter and Black lives matter,
Mm-hmm.
like things like that. Now, you mentioned that you moved to Mobile for college. What was your experience from college? What did you get from college?
Let's see. College, I moved to Mobile to go to the University of South Alabama. I thought I wanted to be a speech pathologist, which is basically a speech therapist. And then I got into the classes and I was like, I don't really like this. And so I I took a American Sign Language elective as one of my foreign languages or something like that. Or maybe it was just an elective, I can't remember. But anyways, I really fell in love in signing and deaf culture, and I was like, I think this is what I want to do for now. And the University of South Alabama only had, the few elective classes, and they didn't have any type of degree that I could get with American Sign Language. So I went to a community college, which is a historically Black community college here in Mobile called Bishop State Community College. And they had an associate's degree, which is a 2-year degree in ASL. So I went there and got that degree and completely loved it and learned so much from being at a historically Black college. Um, I regret not going to a 4-year HBCU, honestly, but now I'm
Yeah.
back in school for elementary education.
Mhm.
Oh, going back to my time at the University of South Alabama, that was around the time that Colin Kaepernick was first sitting and taking a knee for the national anthem. And
Mhm.
he was my boyfriend at the time, but we went to our football game, the college football game, and of course they play the national anthem at the beginning. And I sat for the first time for the national anthem, and I could hear, like, from the seats way away from me, I could hear that they were talking about me, and the older white people around me were like, "You need to get up. You are being disrespectful." Blah 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 blah. And so from that moment on, I was like, I went back to my we had a club in at the University of South Alabama, and I was like, hey, this is what happened to me at our last football game. And I think that we should all go and sit for the national anthem as our own way of standing with Colin Kaepernick. And so they were like, yeah, we should do that. So there was probably about 20 of us that went to the next ball game and sat for the national anthem. But that was probably my first, I mean, I know it was my first protest that I
Mhm.
got involved with. And then from there, I thought, this is it. I'm going to now be an activist and be an organizer. But I was so far from ready. Like, I would pop off and say anything to anybody that was like, that I thought was wrong. It was just not the right time. And
Yeah.
I thank God for growth because, man, I thought I was ready, but I was not. But
Now, would you say the beginning, you dedicating yourself to be an activist or doing these protests? I read somewhere in your story that you've been having some death threats about these things. Is that what is causing that?
oh yes, for sure. So um, last year, I after George Floyd was murdered, I went back home to Marshall County to Albertville and organized a huge protest where like 600 people came out and we had the roads closed and we just marched in the streets. And from there, people were like, they hated me. And if we see you in the street, we're going to run you over. And just horrible things that I never thought I would hear from people in my community.
Wow. Yeah, that's that. I read that and I was like, I can only imagine like how you're living your life like right now and living in fear and things like that. Like we can never imagine. But what is your hope and desire as you continue to do these protests about injustice? Like what do you hope to see happen from that?
I think it's really important that not only am I protesting, but I'm also educating the community and people
Hmm.
that are watching and reading because there what I have found protesting against Confederate monuments and flags and the Confederacy and white supremacy in general, there's a lot that people don't know. And when you don't know something, you're ignorant about it. And so your ignorance causes you to be hateful. When in reality, we should be listening to each other to learn and grow more.
That is definitely hit right on the point, and like just that like makes me think about what just happened in Washington, and like I lost words. So like there's nothing I can say because here you see people trying to fight for their lives, and then you see these other people that go into the Capitol, and I was writing a long post to post on my Facebook, but I'm not really a good writer, and just put it in my notes, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. But that's one of the reasons like I do these podcasts because I know I can talk about things and host people like you that talk about these things. And before we go, we're gonna go off track a little bit about your story. Like I want to hear what you think about what just happened in Washington.
Wow. I want to say unbelievable, but I don't even know if that's the correct word because just these last 4 years of Trump being president, it's kind of believable. But to see it unfold and actually happen in our nation's capital, which, I mean, growing up, you view Washington, D.C. as like the place. That's where our lawmakers are. It's so important to our history and to our country. And to see hundreds of people just break in and cause havoc there and be allowed to do that was the most. I mean, I remember watching it being like, oh no, they're really about to get themselves hurt. And then you keep watching
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, well, no, they're not. They're just doing whatever they want.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was like, Can you imagine? Like before even I read anybody else's comment about what just happened, that was what's going on in my head. Can you just imagine that some people die because they had a phone in their hands, and like I couldn't just think about that, and it was just blowing my mind away. But yeah, this is the country we live in. Now, going back into your story, who supports you in these movements and what keeps you going?
My family supports me, and what keeps me going is the hope that I have. And also, I get asked why I do this quite a lot. And my answer
Hmm.
is I feel deep down just the word necessary. Because if I don't do this work in Albertville, Alabama, nobody else will. Literally, nobody else will. I feel that I have to. Like, it's not an option anymore to stay silent.
At one point too, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna ignore that, and I'm from Uganda. I don't, but like how I told you, like just my skin color, nobody will know you're from Uganda if you don't tell them or just by the look at you. And I just read a story a while ago about a guy who just went to a gas station to fill his wife's car, and people called the police on him because he looked exactly as like the suspect they were looking for, but he wasn't, and he got in trouble for that. Like nobody's safe in this thing. Like you gotta do what you gotta do because no one is safe. Now I read that you've got more than 3,300 people signed the online petition to have the monuments taken down. How has that worked for you? And are you still looking for signatures? And how can our listeners help if they want to help your
Yes,
movement?
any and everybody that agrees that Confederate monuments should not be at our government buildings can sign the petition. Um, the petition is really to show the community how much support we have, and also to show our elected officials in the area that this isn't just Unique that wants this gone. This is an entire community and a movement that no longer wants to worship these signs of white supremacy.
If any of our listeners are listening to this episode and you want to help, you can go online. I'm going to put a link to the petition in the podcast description below. So you can just click on that and see how you can help this movement. Now, has the county where you are helped you on the things you want to do?
So our elected officials in the county are the people who have the power to take down the rebel flag. They can do that right now. But because Alabama passed a new law in 2017, or it's a new act, and it's the Alabama Memorial Preservation Act, where things like the Confederate monuments are protected. But the thing about Albertville that makes it different is our monument is only 24 years old. And the
Mm.
act that they put in place in 2017 says that if your monument is younger than 40 years, then you can take it down with filling out a waiver application that gets sent to Montgomery. Well, our county hasn't even discussed anything about the monument or filling out this waiver application to have it taken down, because the monument is owned by the Sons of Confederate Veterans in our area. So they don't want to make the Sons of Confederate Veterans mad. Also, they are highly uneducated and not knowledgeable about the Confederacy, because in our community, they really love and support our veterans and police department and our country as a whole. But I'm trying to explain to them that you cannot love the Confederacy and love America when the Confederacy fought against America because they wanted to keep their slaves. Like, you can't do both.
I think it's pretty hard to actually just you yourself to convince those people in power if they don't want, and they, like you say, they want to make the sons of the owners of those monuments happy, and they don't consider what it causes in other people's lives. Now, what do you plan to
We're
do
just going to
next?
keep going. We protest on the ground second and fourth weekends. Last year we did second and fourth Wednesdays, but we've moved to the weekends. So we are out there at the courthouse where the monument and the flag flies and is placed. And so we'll keep going. We'll keep our petition going. I don't know if you saw, but a couple of days ago we had a big billboard go up in Albertville, and it's on a highway where
Hmm.
everybody can see it and know what's going on. So
Who is helping you or supporting you in this
people from the
movement?
community, people from outside of the community, my friends and family, really anybody that wants to help out is more than welcome.
Now, what would you want to say to the people listening to you right now, and anything that I haven't asked you about that you want to tell to our listeners?
Um, I want everybody to keep the hope and to keep faith that things can and will get better, but also the change starts with you. So if you see something that you feel is not right, speak up and say something about it. Get you a few friends to help you do the things and organize in your community, in your area. And change can happen if we start to speak up.
Yeah, that's right. Change can happen if we only start to speak up. And I told people in my the podcast I was sending to the people in Uganda that somebody won't know what you want if you just stay silent. So this is the time we need to speak up and talk about these things other than remaining silent. Now we're almost at the end of this episode, and I have a signature question that I ask everybody I host on this podcast. What gets you excited about life?
I think I'm excited about life because I'm excited to see the change that we can make here in Alabama. I mean, forever we have been viewed as country, as dirty, as people who only vote in Republican elected officials. And so I'm excited to change the direction and the way that we are viewed here in Alabama. But that starts with our own mindsets here in Alabama.
That is a good answer. And to me, like thinking about your answer is like you're not even thinking about yourself. Like even though I asked the question to like what gets you excited about life, you could have said anything about your personal life, but you just made it broad for everybody because you care about not only yourself but all the people in Alabama. And I pray that God can help you and motivate you and keep doing what you're doing. When I read your story, I was really encouraged and moved. And there's nothing I could do other than just bring you on here and host you. And many people should listen and hear what you do. And maybe we can support each other in any way that we can. So, to all our listeners, if there's anything you can do to support and help somebody, just you can do it. And if you need information or contact about our guest today, I can help you find that. Now, before I let you go, is there anything else you wanted to
Yes,
say?
I don't
Or
know if people know this or not, but our governor here in Alabama is Kay Ivey, and she is trying to build 3 new mega prisons here in Alabama. Our National Department of Justice has came into Alabama, came into our prisons, and said that we have the worst prisons in the country. So the governor's response to that is, well, we'll just build new ones. But in reality, we know what happens when new prisons come into our community. They fill them with Black and brown people more than any other race or community. So these new prisons are going to be detrimental to our community. So what we are doing with Alabama Justice Initiative, the ACLU of Alabama, Southern Poverty Law Center and other community organizations is we're trying to stop the construction of these buildings, of these new prisons, because we know how much harm they're going to cause to our communities.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely something that's worth fighting for. And um, I just remember the song that says they build prison instead of building training centers to help people and to help people learn better things other than building more prisons. But yeah, and thank you very much for giving us that information and helping us and fighting for the people in Alabama. And I'm praying for you and asking all our listeners to join hands and support in any way they can. And we'll be giving you the information you can use to show the support and help change our communities. But thank you for giving me this time and listening in. And thank you to all
Thank
listeners
you,
and
Bonnie. Have a good
everybody.
day.
Thank you very much. Hey there, I am Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching my video, and don't forget to hit subscribe and share with a friend. Tune in every Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time for a new episode about my podcast. And for more information about this podcast, follow me on my Instagram page, talk_show_256.